If you are eyeing for a business degree, there are very high chances that you would be giving a GMAT to get into that program. I would highly recommend to check how good is that college, because a lot of times what I have seen with these colleges is that they just want people who can give them money. They will give you admission on any basis. Hey everyone, my name is Shlok Gupta and I welcome you to Shlok. In today's video, I am going to talk to you extensively about the GMAT exam. So I'm going to start with very basic and I'm going to cover all the topics, everything, every essential thing that you need to know about the GMAT exam. If you are someone who has no idea what GMAT is and you have just been hearing this word all around you, this is a perfect video for you to begin with. I'll tell you my own journey that I was somebody who was prepping up for CAT, the exam that you take in India to get into good MBA colleges. The CAT was like once in a year, you had to prep a lot, and that one day in a year would decide actually where you are going to go in your life. And it was a very tiring process. Also, the colleges I was getting were just Indian colleges, and that's when I realized that I really wanted to try for some great colleges that are international colleges. Most good MBA colleges are outside India. That's when I heard this name called GMAT, and I decided that I will give this exam. So GMAT is a standardized test like other exams, for example CAT, right? For example GRE, it's a standardized test, and it is extensively used by a lot of MBA programs across the world for their admissions in the mostly MBA programs or the PhD in business or something like MIM, that is Masters of Management. If you are eyeing for a business degree, there are very high chances that you would be giving a GMAT to get into that program. Also, a score of 700 plus in GMAT is considered very good. So if you want to target really the top 100 colleges across the world, that also includes the ISB in India, even IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta. If you're targeting to their program which is for the professionals, then a 700 plus score is something that you should eye for. Even the top colleges around the world, if you think about Harvard or Oxford or INSEAD or HEC Paris, a lot of these colleges you will only get if you target 700 plus in your GMAT score. I want to add here that for Indians, it's a little bit of a different story. So because we Indians are so many in number and so many of us wants to really get into these fancy MBA programs, and these colleges have very limited seats for each nationality because they want diversity in their class. So if there's I'll tell you from my class perspective, I'm a student at Washington University, and in my class we have 86 people, but we only had seats for 7 or 8 Indians. So in those 7 or 8 Indians seat, all of us had really to fight among each other to get into that MBA program. So if you have very high score, there are very high chances you will get a good seat in a good MBA program. Also, you will get a good scholarship. I am somebody who really needed scholarship to get into MBA because international education is really expensive. So if you are asking and if you are trying to get great scholarship, then it is always good to get as much GMAT score as possible. So basically for Indians, if a college's average score is around, for example, 700, I would recommend that if you get 30 score above it, if you get 730, then you would be in a good place, because for us Indians, the game is very different. So I would always recommend that whatever your target college is, if your target college's average GMAT score is 650, please try to get around 680 so that you are in a good space and there are good chances that you would be called for the interview round. One thing I want to specify is that GMAT is not the only parameter these colleges use for you to get into their MBA programs. GMAT is just one of the parameters. There are other parameters that these colleges consider. For example, the essays you will write, the resume you have, the past experiences you have, the job you have done, the extracurriculars you have done, and if you are able to make it to the interview round, how you gave your interview. So all these reasons and all these things are used a lot to ensure that they are able to get very good, motivated candidates who are in sync with the ideology that college believes in. GMAT is just one of the components. I'll give you an average percentage that GMAT is, I think, around 35% of the entire consideration. So if they are making a judgment that whether they should select you or not, GMAT is around 35%. And of course, it's not the entire 100%, but still 35% is a big number. So targeting a very high GMAT is very important for everyone, especially if you are from India or China, because we are a lot in number. Now I will talk about the separate sections that a GMAT exam is composed of. So there are 4 sections in a GMAT exam. The first one is the verbal reasoning. So the verbal reasoning is, to be very honest, quite a tough section, especially for Indians, because we have studied a certain kind of English in our lives. I was somebody who used to get honestly more than 95 marks in my class in English exam. And when I started practicing for the verbal section of GMAT, I realized that my English is so bad. So because the English we are taught in India, it's not that great. So there are good chances that somebody from India, if they are appearing for GMAT exam, they will have to work very hard on this particular section. So the verbal section is comprised of 3 subsections. One of them is reading comprehension. It's just like you'll have a paragraph, you need to read it, you need to understand it, analyze it, and answer some of the questions. There is then the sentence correction, which needs you to know a lot of grammar. You should be able to fix the grammar of sentences. The third one is the critical reasoning, and it involves a lot of your psychology. So the verbal section has around 36 questions, and you will take around 60 minutes. You have that much time to answer, and you get graded between 6 to 51. If you are getting more than around 36 or 37 in the verbal section, and if you combine that with a good score in quant, that is around 48 or 49, there are good chances that you will be able to get more than 700 in your GMAT exam. So the verbal section is very important, and it is one of the 2 important sections in the GMAT exam. The second section, which is very critical, is the quant section, or quantitative analysis. It comprises of all the maths. It is a section which tries to understand that how much understanding you have of the basic concepts of math. For example, algebra, trigonometry, probability, statistics, things like that. And it does test very basic thing. It does test that how much of the maths you know of whatever you have studied till class 10. Well, this doesn't mean that the questions that would be there are going to be straight out of your class 8 or class 9 textbook. The questions are a little bit tricky, and they're designed in a way so that they can test your aptitude. From the Indian perspective, let me tell you, if you are somebody who has prepped for CAT in the past, there are good chances that you might not find the quant section of GMAT that much tough, because the quant of CAT is quite tough, and comparatively the GMAT quant is not that tough in comparison to CAT. So it might be an okay section for you. That happened with me too. Historically, over the life, I'm not that great at maths, but when I started attempting the GMAT maths, I realized that I didn't find it that tough because I had already prepped for the CAT maths. So it's a good section. It is again an essential section along with the verbal section, and if you are scoring more than around 48 or 49, you will be in good place. If you combine it with great score in verbal, then you will be able to get more than 700 in the GMAT. Again, you have around 31 questions, and you get 62 minutes to answer these questions. The third section is the integrated reasoning. So this is a section which tries to test your maths plus verbal combined. It is a section where you will have a lot of data, and you have to analyze data, and the data is given in form of bars, charts, pie charts, things like that. So it's a kind of an analysis section where you have to do. So this section, the score you get in this section does not count in the main score that you get out of 800. It is a section where you get a separate score, And well, this section is definitely important, but the other two sections, that is verbal and quant, is more important. I would recommend you to really try to get great scores in those sections, and after that you can think about this section. That doesn't mean it is not at all important, but it is relatively less important. The fourth section is the AWA section, and in this section you will be given some prompts and you have to write an essay on it, and then it will be graded by somebody in GMAT. Again, just like integrated reasoning, it is not a section where your score would determine how much you get in the final tally out of 800. So it is a relatively less important section, but if you are going to give a GMAT exam, I would highly recommend to an extent, so that you can get good score in this section as well. But quant and verbal are the two most important sections in a GMAT exam. You get 30 minutes in both of these sections. In the AWA section, you get graded out of 0 to 6. You get a grade somewhere in between that. In the integrated reasoning section, you get score from 0 to 8. So you get graded out of that. When you are about to give a GMAT exam, so you will have an opportunity to choose that which section you want to take when. So they will give you an odd options of the order you want to take. I always took the verbal section in the beginning because I felt that I really needed to be fresh in mind when I was attempting verbal section, but it completely depends on you what section you want to take when. You can literally, in mock tests, you can try, you can make sure that the order you are taking is correct and gives you the most optimized score. So the more you wait for a certain section in the exam, there are good chances that your mind might get tired by the time you reach there. So I would highly recommend that section in which you need to give a lot of attention, you better take it earlier. So this is all you need to know about the GMAT test, but now I'm going to tell you how you should start preparing for that. So the first thing I recommend everyone when you are starting from basic is to take one of the official mock tests on the MBA.com website. So the MBA.com is the official GMAT website. You can go there, and there you can select one of the 2 free tests that are available. These tests consist of questions that have come in the GMAT in the past. So I would recommend you to block 3 hours over a weekend or over a weekday and just sit and give that mock test. You don't need to prep at all for anything. Once you give that mock test, you will have an idea that what are the sections you are good at, what are the sections you are bad at. I recommend people to take this test because a lot of time people just start preparing without even knowing that where they stand. So some people who are really good at quant, they start with quant, and although actually the smart thing would be to start with verbal because that's where they would need more preparation time. So once you give this free mock test, you will have an idea where you stand, and based on that, you can start making sure that you are kind of practicing that particular section. If you are getting bad score in quant, if you have decent score in verbal, I would recommend just start practicing with quant also. That is the smart way to start studying. You will have an idea once you start going through the section. For example, if you are going to the quant section, once you give some practice test, you will have an idea that where you stand, how much you are getting in algebra, how much you are getting in some other section. So if your algebra score, for example, is weak, then I would recommend you to start practicing more that subsection. So GMAT is a very analytical exam because they really want to check that what is your chances and what is your ability to improve. Once you have a score in front of you, that is the mock test score, and once you start practicing some subsections, you will have an idea that where you stand well, where you stand bad. And I would recommend you to start practicing where you stand bad. That's where you will be able to improve your overall score. That's exactly what I did. I am somebody that when I gave my mock test for the first time, I actually scored 550 in my mock test. That was a terrible score. And when I gave my final GMAT exam, I scored more than 700. So I was able to travel through that journey because I was very smart about what I want to improve on. So this is a very important thing that I recommend everyone to try on. So that's all from my side about everything you need to know about GMAT. If you have any questions related to GMAT, please comment it down. I would reply it and make sure I'm able to help you. Well, I have a lot of videos lined up for GMAT. So the next video I am going to make is actually about my GMAT journey. I have already made it in Hindi, but now I am going to make it in English as well so that it can reach to wider audience. It is going to talk about how I was able to improve my score so much. So do watch, do subscribe to the channel, do wait for the next video. I will see you next time. Thank you. Namaste. Bye bye.